Hello folks, this is Jacob Harkey. It is July 29th, 2024. It's been a few days since the last time I did a live stream and held a conversation with you all. And since then there's been a lot of news, a lot of significant yet disturbing news, which was also the case last time I spoke with you all on here. The ongoing news events that continue to be relevant and be significant day after day can certainly put one through a whirlwind of emotions. I find myself moving back and forth between moments of hope and moments of despair. And the news cycle moves fast, and new news stories come in so quickly that it seems like it can be so easy for so much of the world to just collectively forget about news stories from more than a few weeks ago. In light of all that, I figured I might take some time to share my understanding and interpretation of some of the relevant news stories of the last day or so, while also just chatting about some of my overall thoughts related to them. The news story, or the news topic I should say, that I have been paying the most attention to and that I am thinking most of in light of everything that I've said so far in this video, it's the ongoing genocide in Palestine. As I usually do when I talk about the genocide in Palestine, I'll take some time to address my understanding of Zionism and my understanding of the conflict in that part of the Middle East to ground viewers in an understanding of where I'm coming from. Zionism is the belief that all of the land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River, which is recognized throughout most of the world today as Israel, belongs exclusively to Jewish people and should be inhabited exclusively by Jewish people. Now, prior to the year 1948, that land was widely recognized as Palestine and was predominantly inhabited by Arabs. In 1948, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine took place. The state of Israel was formally established. And I say the ethnic cleansing of Palestine took place in 1948. The truth is, it is an ongoing process. The goals of Zionism cannot be achieved without the forced relocation of the Palestinian people, the mass imprisonment of the Palestinian people, or the mass execution of the Palestinian people. And in other words, the goals of Zionism cannot be achieved without committing genocide against the Palestinian people. When the ethnic cleansing of Palestine began, many Palestinian Arabs were relocated to the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And since the mid-2000s, the Gaza Strip has been under full siege, a full land, air, and sea blockade, where citizens are not able to freely come and go without the permission of the Israeli government, which the Israeli government rarely grants. And since October 7th of 2023, that siege that the Israeli government has placed on Gaza has only become more and more horrifying, with nearly all hospitals in Gaza destroyed, universities and schools being destroyed, residential neighborhoods being carpet bombed. Nearly all of the population of Gaza has now been displaced on numerous occasions. This is a genocide, folks. And shamefully, the US government gives the state of Israel billions of dollars a year as they carry out their genocide. So that's some background about where I come from and how I tend to approach stories relating to the genocide in Palestine. There have been significant developments in the last 24 hours. In the last 24 hours, Gaza's health ministry has declared Gaza to be a polio epidemic zone. Now, this is something that it's a tragedy and a shame that we're even seeing something like this happen in 2024. Polio is a disease for which vaccines have been available for decades. With that in mind, there's no reason that in 2024 we should not have the ability to control polio outbreaks everywhere. But because of the fact that so few in Gaza have access to clean water, and the fact that their healthcare system has been destroyed to the degree that it has been, we are seeing Gaza being declared a polio epidemic zone by Gaza's health ministry. And in light of this, the Israeli government has committed to vaccinating its own soldiers who are being deployed to the Gaza Strip. I'm not hopeful that the Israeli government is going to prioritize getting those vaccines to the citizens of Gaza, unfortunately. Now, I do want to promote that there is a water purification project that is being worked on in Gaza and being fundraised for. If you look at the Instagram reel that I have linked in the description of this live stream, I have linked a reel from an Instagram user named Ingenious, Indigenous, and you can find her at Ingenious_Indigenous_. And again, the link to that is also in the description of this video. And the organizer can be reached at Lena_Staye on Venmo or Lena_Staye on PayPal. Those can also be found in the Instagram reel that I have linked here. But for those of you who, like me, may sometimes feel hopeless and sometimes feel overwhelmed with despair about how to improve conditions, consider donating some money, if you have the means, to this water purification project in Gaza. This has the impact to, or the potential to have a very real, tangible impact at a time when it's hard to have faith that our own government, if you're living in the US, will be interested in providing and ensuring humanitarian aid reaches the citizens of Gaza. That's one news story of the last 24 hours that I wanted to spend some time discussing. Now, outside of Gaza, in the greater region at large of the Middle East, tensions have also been continuing to escalate between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah is an Islamic group based primarily in Lebanon that is not directly affiliated with the Lebanese government, but whose fighters have engaged in ongoing clashes with fighters from the Israeli military. And Hezbollah has stood in solidarity with other parties in the axis of resistance, standing against US imperialism and standing against the Israeli genocide in Gaza. Within the last 48 hours, there was an attack in the Golan Heights, which is part of Syria, which is occupied by the Israeli military. Although the majority of the citizens there consider themselves Druze, consider themselves Aryan or Syrian, much more than they would consider themselves Israeli. There was an attack on a Druze community within the last 48 hours in this Golan Heights area, which is occupied by Israel. Israel has blamed the attack on Hezbollah. Hezbollah has denied responsibility for the attack, but Israel has used this attack as well, is their justification for continuing to bomb Lebanon. An anonymous Israeli has claimed that this was Iron Dome shrapnel after seeing shrapnel from the bomb. Folks, I can't say that I have conclusive evidence to know all of the details of what has happened, what has occurred in the Golan Heights in the last 48 hours. But I hope to not see more civilians be harmed by imperialism and by Zionism. Now, one slight piece of good news that I will take a moment to mention is that I'm seeing growing pressure on the Israeli government for a ceasefire and for an end to the occupation. Excuse me, I may have said within the Israeli government, within the state of Israel, by Israeli citizens. I'm seeing more videos and pictures from demonstrations in the streets in Israel proper, where Israeli citizens are putting pressure on their own government to change their ways. This is something that gives me some semblance of hope. We've all got a role to play. If you live in the US, you can call on your elected representatives and put pressure on them to end arms and military and financial support for Israel. And seeing citizens of Israel doing the same, something that gives me hope. However, there's been some news over the last 24 hours that I really didn't see coming, and that I think is actually quite disturbing. Trigger warning. I'll talk about some alleged sexual assault. Now, I may not be pronouncing all of the words that I'm going to use completely correctly, but Sde Teiman, spelled S-D-E-T-E-I-M-A-N, is the name of an Israeli. It's a prison where Palestinian detainees have been held who have not been tried, some of them not ever formally charged with a crime. In other words, these people can be called hostages. And the Israeli military and Israeli police have been able to arrest Palestinian detainees for whatever reason they choose. Now, specifically at this Sde Teiman facility, some horrible allegations have come out about the way that prisoners are being treated. Some of these prisoners, at least one that I'm aware of from the last 24 to 48 hours, has been hospitalized for alleged sexual assault and torture. And again, we're talking about a population of detainees that hasn't been formally charged and tried or convicted. In response to some of the public backlash against this torture camp, the Israeli government did arrest 9 Israeli officers. And now, in protest of that, far-right Israeli citizens, some of whom work for the government, have stormed the Beit Lid military police headquarters in Israel. This is a development that I did not anticipate, that Israeli citizens would be protesting the arrest of their own officers who are believed to have tortured Palestinian detainees who have not even been formally charged with crimes. So those are some of the news stories of the last 24, 48 hours that I wanted to take some time to process, take some time to discuss out loud for a few reasons. One is continuing to do the research and continuing to discuss it helps me to keep my own thoughts clear in my own head. Sometimes helps me to solidify where I'm coming from as I'm speaking out loud. beyond that, the news cycles just move so quickly that things that have happened just a few weeks ago can be completely overshadowed by new news stories to the point that they'll even get forgotten. Lexi Evans, I see, is in the chat. Lexi says, I hope people can see through the straight gaslighting that the Israel Prime Minister spewed last week as well. And that's a great example. It's been not long since Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave his speech in Congress to both chambers, who shamefully applauded him. But the news stories just tick on. So many thoughts come into my head when I consider everything that's happening in the world. And as I'm addressing you all publicly, it is wise to be careful about how much I do choose to say publicly. But I am ashamed. I continue to be ashamed at how much money and how much military support our government continues to show for the state of Israel, as the state of Israel continues to pursue the genocidal goals of Zionism. And as a reminder, anti-Zionism is something that I want to make a clear distinction. Between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Because Zionists are continuing to hold up the claim that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Well, I've explained what Zionism is, and if you joined the video a little bit later, the land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River belongs exclusively to Jewish people and should be inhabited exclusively by Jewish people, and that the existence of a Jewish state to achieving those aims is necessary. Now, before 1948, Zionism was the belief that a Jewish state should be established in Palestine. Since 1948, Zionism has been the belief that Israel should continue to exist, has a right to continue to exist, and has a right to defend itself. Well, international law backs up the claim that people who are occupied, people who are oppressed, have a right to resist. And a recent ruling by the International Court of Justice backs up the notion that Israel is illegally occupying the West Bank and Gaza. That alone backs up the claim that Gazans and Palestinians in the West Bank have a right to resist their oppressor. Anytime I start talking about any piece of this, I can find myself going into a tangent really quick. But to return to what I was saying, Zionism is a genocidal ideology. To oppose Israel and its genocidal acts, its genocidal goals, this does not mean that one opposes the safety of Jewish people. The Jewish people have, without any shadow of a doubt, been the victims of horrible atrocities. But the solution is not the creation of an exclusively Jewish state at the expense of the lives of the native Palestinians. I see Lexi says, did you see the breakdown of the cities that send the most federal taxes in California to Israel? I did not. That would be really interesting to check out. I have been thankful to see anti-Zionist protest movements growing, not just in the United States, not just in Israel, but internationally. And it is my hope that this will continue, and that this continued pressure will have an impact. But sometimes the wheels of justice turn slowly. And when the death count in Gaza continues to rise, it's difficult to be patient. Thank you, Max Smith. And thank you, Rather Be in Maui. I appreciate the support. Well, I think that those were the main updates that I wanted to touch on with this video in particular. I'll do what I can to touch base with you all again soon. In the meantime, I hope that you stay safe. I'll go ahead and plug Lina Staye, or Ingenious Indigenous's fundraiser again, or effort to raise funds for the water purification project in Gaza. So feel free to check out the Instagram reel that's linked in the description of this video if you want to support that, if you are willing and able to support that. And other than that, I hope you all stay safe. I hope you stay educated. Continue to organize. Continue to donate to mutual aid organizations. Continue to resist imperialism on an international scale. All right, stay safe, everybody. I will talk to you all soon. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.